Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of AllDay Edify. We're your hosts. I'm Corey. This is my lovely, beautiful wife, Tasha.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. Today's show is going to be really great. Again, I know I say that all the time, but we are enjoying the flow of discussing the communication process. And so, our topic for today's show is the differences in the way men and women communicate.
Yes, yes. And I really enjoyed both the way that this discussion has been going, but also some of the feedback that we've gotten from some viewers in regard to this unique topic, the unique differences in the way that men and women communicate.
Exactly. And so, as we were putting this show together, we had actually found this quote, which we both thought was just so true. And so, this quote actually is from this author, John Gray, who actually made the book Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And this quote actually says, not only do men and women communicate differently, but they think, feel, perceive, react, respond, love, need, and appreciate differently. And so we just really thought that that was a very interesting quote.
Absolutely. Very powerful quote, in fact, because it gives all the details and it helps us to better understand how we express ourselves. You know what, babe? I think this is going to be a really good show, both for men and for women.
I agree. I mean, because we mentioned in our last episode that we would have guests on with us today. So I have to ask that since we have house guests, that you be on your best behavior because I know you love this topic and we want to be fair to allow everyone the opportunity to share with our viewers. I mean, I know you love to get people fired up because you love this topic.
Okay, translation. I just like to have good communication, real conversations about real things. All right, so I think more than anything, we should be a little bit concerned, make sure that my wife is playing fair as well. All right, I'm just here to make sure that for the sake of the viewers, that we are able to have some fun and enjoyable conversation, but to uplift, inform, and enlighten our viewers as well.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. But if you can recall, we talked about there being a difference between what is said and what is meant. So we'll have to see if my husband actually means what he says.
I always mean what I say. But speaking of our last episode, we talked about certain words carry certain meaning, and sometimes it makes it difficult for people to identify with our intent unless they are familiar with us. And so it's so important for people that we communicate with to have an understanding of who we are and then get an understanding of what's being communicated.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, although we both love the quote that we showed, let's get some feedback from the guests that we have on our show today. So, we have a guest who is joining us all the way from Nashville, Tennessee, who has experience in working professionally as a property manager. And most importantly, she is an effective communicator. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mrs. Wendy Jones to the show.
Hello, Wendy. Good to
Hello.
have you with us today.
Good to be
Hi,
here.
hi, Wendy. Please introduce yourself to our viewers.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Wendy Jones, and like she said, I'm from Nashville. Well, I'm from Flint, but I live in Nashville.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to be here. I am a property manager. I've been doing it for a very long time, for about 16, 17 years, somewhere around there. And it has taught me a lot about communicating.
Good. Yep. And so, we also have a male guest with us because we want to balance it out a little bit. Don't get it twisted, y'all. This ain't no tag team wrestling match, all right? But we do have an individual who is a community-minded entrepreneur as well as a TV show host himself. None other than the real OG himself, Mr. Claude High.
Hi,
Hello.
Good to have you with us, man.
It's great to be here.
Yep. If you could, please take a moment and introduce yourself to the viewers.
Okay, well, I mean, a lot of viewers may know me already. Claude High, the real OG. I'm a talk show host. Things they may not know, I'm a president, CEO of High Rise Entertainment. 20 plus years. Been a director, producer, done documentaries, book author, music, concert promoter, real estate developer, business owner, jack of many trades and a master of many. So yeah, I have to deal with people quite often, and I have to sit back and listen. And I think the women may have a up on us on that one, you know what I'm saying? To be able to listen, because in order to interpret, you have to listen.
Absolutely. Okay. So, we really want to allow ourselves an opportunity to cover as much as possible, right, babe?
Exactly. But before we dive into the first question, it is important to point out that the purpose of this dialogue is not to create hostility or disunity within our relationship, because we know there is enough of that going around.
Absolutely. That's right, babe. So our goal is to encourage responsible dialogue, honest and open discussion between men and women, so that we're not avoiding the sometimes difficult or challenging discussions and preventing progress from taking place. And so the communication process allows us to do that when when it's done effectively, to avoid the difficult discussions, but to deal with them directly.
That's right. And so as working professionals, and people who seek to problem solve challenging situations, we are not avoidance type leaders.
Absolutely. And I think that applies to everybody that's with us on today. Some leaders, it may encourage avoidance, but we believe in getting understanding, because when you get an understanding, that's the best way to get it right. But before we get into that first question, babe, could you put that quote back up, that slide back up?
Yep, absolutely. And so this slide, it says, not only do men and women communicate differently, but they think, feel, perceive, react, respond, love, need, and appreciate differently.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay, so ladies first. Wendy, do you agree with that quote?
I agree 100%.
Good. Claude, how about yourself?
Yeah, I do 100%. And it's funny that y'all brought that book up, because when you sent me the thing and was asking about it, I thought of this book, but it was so long ago. And I'm like, right. Yeah, men are from, Mars, women are from Venus. And just hearing that, and for you all to put it on there, I mean, just brought it all back.
Yeah.
So this topic has been out there a long time, you know what I'm saying? Absolutely. And I think it's evolved now as the ages have evolved.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, we don't want to assume anything, so to each of our guests in general, which of the two do you believe are better communicators? Do you think men or women? And can you specify one reason why?
All right. So we want to stick with the pattern of ladies going first. So Wendy, if you could please tell us why it is that you believe that men are better communicators.
Well, I don't believe that.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you.
I do believe women are better communicators than men. Okay. And it's because of our makeup and how we are emotional creatures, but we also communicate with people to learn, to dissect, to analyze, to figure out what we need to know about them in the situation. Men don't do all of that. They're not searching out, they don't ask questions like women do. Because even with your children, well, where you going, who they are, what's their mama name, what's their daddy name, who live in that house, and blah blah. And that's just questions that women ask. Even with my daughters, well, what's this guy's name, and what his mama name, and is his daddy been in jail, and so we ask a lot of questions men don't generally ask. Even with the children, well, what you eat today, what you do in school today, and this. Men don't care about that. What you want for dinner, and that's it. They don't care about what you did at school today. So I think women are better communicators and information finders than men. That's my opinion.
Now, before anybody else say anything, I just want to say that I didn't have an opinion yet or whatever. And I'm still not putting my opinion out there, but I did not look at it the way Wendy just put it. But that's really good. That's really good. I just wanted to just add that.
Gotcha. All right. So Claude, same question applies to you. Why do you believe that men or women are better communicators? Which do you believe and why?
Well, I think that's a complex question. You know what I'm saying? In general, I think women are, in a general sense. I think a lot of times, especially when you come down to more technical stuff and men being in a more business or getting something done that's, I wouldn't say by the home or something like that, or family oriented, because women listen to things more, but we tend to be more focus minded on a basic conversation, get straight to the point. Women are definitely going to be more complex and emotional about the situation. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to go in a lot of different directions. So it depends on who and what it is. Because I think, like myself or any other, leader out there in the community, I got to give it to us men. You know what I'm saying? We can communicate. We're going to get the troops going, and we're going to get focused on what's got to get done. We're not going to get steered over here or steered over there. And I think we're going to communicate that. We're going to come up with a quick plan and say, okay, this is the direction we need to go and keep us on that course, and try to communicate that, I think.
Gotcha. I see Wendy looks happy about that response. She
Well,
really does. But I'll say this. I agree with what a big part of what Claude's saying. My wife picks on me all the time because she always tells me that sometimes women just want you to listen because that's what they do. But at the same time, men are solution focused. So as we're listening, we're thinking of a solution and how we can go about solving the problem. So we're ready to cut to the chase and get to the solution many times.
I agree with you 100%. Men are the thinker. So when you're thinking, you're not saying a lot. So they're thinking about how to resolve this, not saying a lot, because their mind is on the solution because they're fixers. And so they're thinking about the solution as we're thinking about all the things that lead up to the solution, all the things that play a factor in the solution. So men are just say, hey, they're thinking about it, they're going to get it done, and they're not verbalizing it. And women, we do. So I agree 100%.
Good.
And sometimes when we're talking about communication, like my husband saying, sometimes we just want you to listen. There isn't even anything that needs to be solved. So you're sitting there trying to solve something that doesn't need to be solved. We just want you to actually just listen. And so the problem in that is you're trying to solve something and it's like, no, just calm down, just listen. And I'm not asking you to solve anything. And so that's kind of where that one-way communication come in, because you're really not listening or you're not engaged in what I'm saying, because you're really trying to solve and you're not really just listening to what I'm saying in the communication process.
Now, I will say, I tell my husband sometimes, you're not listening to understand. You're listening to respond. I don't need that. I need you to understand what I'm saying. And you're right. I don't always need your solution. I need you to listen to understand what I'm talking about.
But here's the thing, though. And I don't know, Claude, maybe you agree or disagree.
I see he done sat up.
So here's the thing, though. Because we are forward thinking, because at the end of the day, it falls in our lap, right? We're thinking about, it may not be a problem today, and you just want me to listen today, but tomorrow, if we don't take some kind of adjustment in the way we're dealing with this, tomorrow we're going to have to deal with it. And so that's why I believe that's a big part of why we are listening with a solution focus, is because sometimes we realize like, oh, it ain't a problem today, But if we keep going in this direction, and if you keep feeling this way about it, I'm going to have to deal with it. So that's a lot of why we are solution focused as we're listening.
Right. I think problem on both hand, women, men and women, is a lot of times we latch on to one thing that's been said, and we stop listening to the rest of it because we locked in on that one part. So yeah, right, exactly. If a man say, well, I don't like this, and this, and all she heard was, I don't like this, and that's it. She didn't hear the other part about what he said, well, I like this or that or da. It's just that one part, and then vice versa. I think men hear one thing and they lock on that and say, okay, this is what we got to fix and work on. And then maybe 3 or 4 other things that get said, so then the communication drops. And he's like, well, Dan, what you want me to do? I solved the problem. I thought I did. Yeah, you solved one thing, but you didn't hear the other parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. Okay. And so for men and women who struggle, is there any way that you believe the opposite gender can help them with improving their effectiveness?
So who is it? Well, we'll let the ladies go first.
Well, it is. I mean, when you're talking about the different types of, sometimes too, when it comes to communicating, sometimes you have to communicate to people. It just depends. Sometimes you have to communicate to people the way they learn, and sometimes they don't always understand because you're not communicating it the way they learn and the way they understand. So it's hard when you are a visual and you're trying to say something to a person that learns and they're hands-on, or they learn by, reading it or whatever. And so sometimes you have to know who you're dealing with and
familiarity,
know what kind of person they are, and know what their thought process is, how they were raised. All of that play a factor. And if they have a little, I won't say character flaws, if they have some weaknesses, you have to know how to handle that person and how to communicate. Because if you come off too aggressive or if you come off too passive, they might not totally understand. So I think it's based off how that person is.
I agree. Okay. What
Okay.
do you think, babe?
Well, I want to hear from Claude, and then I want to share with you what I think.
Well, definitely to opposite sex, we have to understand one another, where we coming from. We have to understand a woman's makeup is different than a man's makeup, and the same vice versa. The woman has to understand a man's makeup is different than a woman's makeup, And I explain that to a lot of young men and young women, you know what I'm saying? I say, well, look, you can't get to thinking like a woman, Say, well, if I did do that, so no, we don't want to get to doing that, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And vice versa, the woman, I don't want you to get to thinking like that. I want you to be respectful
That's
of
right.
where they're coming from, you know what I'm saying? But I don't want you to get to thinking like that, because now we wind up in these other spaces that we don't want to be, you know what I mean? But we got to understand that definitely, like we said, Mars and Venus, we interpret conversation differently. We as men and we as women, you know what I'm saying? And men being more masculine, we're going to look at it in that sense. And if it's a woman giving it to her, we're going to be thinking, okay, is this going to be a little bit more fragile? And I got to be this, that, or the other, you know what I mean? Now, Wendy, she said you deal in real estate, and I have a few situations with real estate myself. When I have somebody, I'm a landlord, and when I'm working with people, if you're a tenant of mine, I'm going to handle you a lot lighter when you're my tenant versus when you done moved out and we got a bad situation. I'm not going to hold you up. I don't care, man or woman. I'm going to give it to you what it is, and I'm going to let you know the other part of the feeling and say, hey, you know what I'm saying? Because you don't have, you don't have to baby him, because it's like, okay, well, our business is done. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to be like I'm hard or being ingenuous, because usually I try to lay things out on the front board, say, let's go through this. And so it's nothing there open. If you got any questions, let me know. You got 30 days to let me know this, or this, you know what I mean? So it's nothing hidden, no hidden agenda.
Right.
And I think as far as communicating, that's what we have to do in life, is not have those hidden agendas, and be able to read and see if people have hidden agendas.
Yep. I agree. And my take on it, in terms of learning something from the opposite gender, I just believe that there's a great opportunity for balance there. I think there's a lot for, I believe in shooting straight with people. And if I feel as though, I'm not uncomfortable at all with having challenge, the hard conversations, because I feel like a lot of people, like you were saying, Wendy, a lot of people only learn things a certain way. So if all people know is you being aggressive with them and they don't know how to receive you trying to tone it down, then you hurting your whole communication process with them in terms of being effective. You trying to tone it down and all they know is you coming at them rough because that's all they've accustomed to. And so I believe that there's an opportunity, like example, where I try to implement some of the listening part before I go at things in an aggressive way. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to apply some wisdom. And so that's one of the things that I've learned from my wife is that she's a really good listener. And I've gradually over the years learned to take it all in and just listen real good. But at the end of the day, if I feel as though all that's going to really be effective is being direct and aggressive, then I'm just going to be who I am.
I agree. Because dealing with residents, I have 200 and something people I deal with. So, you're dealing with all different type of personalities and behaviors and all of that. So I do have some people I have to be very direct and harsh. Some people I have to be very gentle, and some people I have to be very compassionate and very loving. And some people I can be very funny and engage a lot with. So it's based off of their, how they have communicated with me. And so I do have people I have to say, well, it is what it is. You can read your lease. And if you have any further questions, you probably can put that in an email to the corporate office and they'll get it to the right person. And then you can move forward with them. Okay. All right. And so I have to be like that because they don't understand nothing else. With some other people, I can say, well, come in and let's talk about it. I can go over it with you. And I know that. And I'm just based off knowing who I deal with. So I get it. I get it, Corey. I get it.
Yeah. And so, I think that overall our takeaway from that is that, there is always a lot that we can learn from one another. At the end of the day, we're not going to change our identity like you're saying, Claude. We're not going to change our approach to being who we are. You know what I mean? Men are masculine and, sometimes we go to get stuff. Real true story, very funny. We went to the dealership one time recently and I'm in the car with my wife and, they approached the car and we there to get some work done. And she didn't say anything to him. She just pointed to me like, talk to the man. Don't even talk to me. You know what I'm saying? But, in some areas, it's a lot of opportunity for women to benefit from us stepping up and being who we are in the communication process. Just like a lot of times, because we work with a lot of men and women, a lot of times I'll direct women to talk to my wife. Because she's going to deal with you with kid gloves. And I don't want anything that I say, not that I'm trying to be abrasive, but at the same time, I don't want anything to be lost in terms of you're looking to connect maybe with a softer tone or somebody to, have a little bit more patience in dealing with you.
Now, I will say, too, my husband and I, we it's certain situations he'll say, well, I'll let you deal with my wife. So if it's something that I got to handle sometimes, depending on what it is, he'll send me. And if it's something that I want to shy away from, I send, because sometimes he can be a mean bulldog. So I send him to be the bulldog sometimes in certain situations where I'm not comfortable. So I agree. We have to know our partners and where they excel and where you're weak and where they're weak and where you excel.
Yeah. So I think the overtone, the whole tone of it all is balance. I think we want to be balanced in the way that we communicate with people. And if there's some messages that you might enlist somebody else to communicate for you, So then that way you maintain the effectiveness in the communication. I think that remains the goal, no matter what you're dealing with.
Mhm.
All right. So we want to take a turn in a different direction. And babe, if you would please. All right. Okay. So we we're preparing this episode, we found these 6 signs of poor communication skills.
Wow. This is a really good topic.
Yeah.
Differences in the way men and women communicate. Stay tuned for part 2. Do you provide human services? Are you an entrepreneur that contributes to society? Do you have access to tools and resources that facilitate growth and development? Come be a guest on our show. You can email us at alldayedify@gmail.com or send us a message on our Facebook page at AllDay Edify.